Good evening, South Africa. My name is Debbie Samlilwana. Welcome to our show, Constitution Today. This evening, we have guests on our show. Our first guest is Mrs. Africa. Veli South Africa. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Ms. Ndubana.
And our second guest is Nomalungisa Lawana. Welcome to our show.
Thanks, Ms. Mlilwana.
Okay. This evening, we have a very interesting topic, which is living with HIV and your Bill of Rights. Mr. Hofmeyer is living with HIV and was refused employment as a cabin attendant by the South African Airways because of his HIV positive status. He approached the Constitutional Court because he believed the refusal to employ him is a violation of his constitutional right to equality. So in South Africa, there are founding statements of the Constitution, which is called preamble. So Mrs. Africa will take us through the preamble of South Africa. Will you do the honor?
Thank you, Ms. Ndubana. My name is Veli South Africa. I'll be taking you South Africa through to preamble. Preamble is the constitution in the supreme law of the land, which is also the cornerstone of laws formulated in the governing the country. The founding of statement of the Act was drafted to acknowledge and recognize the injustice of the apartheid regime, with aim to correcting the injustice of our past, to honor all those who fought for the freedom of their land, and not forgetting the contribution of all South African heroes who have worked to build a better country for all that is living in it. Preamble also puts emphasis on the fact that South Africa is a democratic country that belongs to all that live in it. A country that is rich with diversity, where South Africa are equally protected through social justice and fundamental human rights.
Wow, thank you very much, Mrs. Africa. We also have a Bill of Rights in South Africa. They are also called a Declaration of Rights or Charter of Rights. It is a list of the most important rights to the citizens of our country. The purpose is to protect those rights against infringement from public officials and private citizens. Bill of Rights may be entrenched or unentrenched. An entrenched Bill of Rights cannot be amended or repealed by the country's legislature through regular procedure. Instead, requiring supermajority, often it is part of a country's constitution, and therefore subject to special procedure applicable to constitutional amendment. A Bill of Rights that is not entrenched is a normal statute law, and as such can be modified or repealed by the legislative at will. So Mr. Hofmeyer was refused employment because of his HIV positive status. According to the constitutional law, his rights to equality have been violated and his human dignity have been damaged. Mr. Hofmeyer was discriminated because of his status. The Constitutional Court must take actions for Mr. Hofmeyer to achieve greater equality. Everyone is equal before the law. Affirmation action may be taken to achieve greater equality. No unfair discrimination is allowed. The Bill of Rights guarantees health care. And I've also mentioned there are also chapters on our constitutional law, which is 14 chapters, and Ms. Nomalungisa Lawana will take us through to some of the chapters in the constitutional law. Over to you, Ms. Malungisa.
Good evening, South Africa. My name is Nomalungisa Lawana. Thank you, Ms. Mlilwana. I will be talking about some of the Constitution chapters. And the one that I'm going to talk about is chapter 10. This chapter is about the values and principles for the administration of the civil service, which will be the different government departments, such as Department of Labor, together with the civil servants. who are employees of government and the establishment of public services commissioned to oversee the values of Department of Labor as follows. We treat employees with care, dignity and respect. We respect and promote client-centered services, accountability, integrity and ethical behavior, learning and development. We live with Batopele principles. Inculcate this value through our performance management system. That Mr. Hofmaster's fair labor practice have been violated. According to the labor law, employer may not be dismissed based on HIV status unless it is proven that the employer is not physically fit for employment. I thank you.
Adding to what Ms. Lawana has said, I will also quote on one of the chapters of the Constitution of the South Africa, which is dealing with a constitutional court. Mm-hmm. The constitutional court consists of the Chief Justice of South Africa, the Deputy Chief Justice, and the 9 judges. Mm-hmm. A matter before the constitutional court must be heard by at least 9 judges. Mm-hmm. The constitutional court is the highest court in the Republic and may decide constitutional matters and any other matter. If the constitutional court grant leaves to appeal on the grounds the matter raises an arguable point of law of the general public importance which authors to be considered by that court and makes the final decision whether the matter is within its jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ms. Lawana.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawana, and thank you for telling us more about the 14 chapters. And that will be all for today. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you very much, Mrs. Africa and Mrs. Lawana. And after the break, we will have another guest on our show that will also take us through some more of the Constitution of South Africa. So, we have Ms. Ngesi, Nokutula Ngesi, on our show today. Welcome to our show, Ms. Ngesi.
Thank you so much,
Ms. Mlilwana. All right, Ms. Ngesi will also take us through to the Section 36 of our Constitution in South Africa. Will you please take us through?
Okay then. The Section 36 and its limitations. Mm-hmm. Rights contained in the Bill of Rights are not absolute and may be limited by way of specific limitation clause, where individual rights are subject to limitations set out in the individual section. Mm-hmm. For an example, Section 9 on equity. Mm-hmm. In addition, the Constitution provides a general limitation clause at Section 36, which provides for all rights in the Bill of Rights to be limited in terms of law of general application, and that limitations must be reasonable and justifiable at all times in an open and democratic society based on human dignity, equality, and freedom. Any limitations must be therefore reasonable and may only be made with good cause. Limitations should also be less restrictive with the aim of improving the quality of life of all in South Africa. Organs of states such as the judiciary, the legislature, or the executive bodies of the state may limit rights in carrying out their function. For an example, by limiting the freedom of a prisoner, further because of the horizontal application of the Bill of Rights, may be limited by the actions or decision of the person. The courts are empowered to test the validity of the limitation in terms of Section 36. Section 36 provides certain factors that must be taken into account by courts when determining if limitations is reasonable and justifiable. So those are the nature of the right, the importance of limitation, the nature and extent of the limitation, relation between limitation and its purpose, also less restrictive means to achieve the purpose. So that is basically it, Ms. Mlebane.
Oh wow, thank you so much, Ms. Ngesi.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. South Africa, you've had yourself. Mr. Hofmeister was unfairly mistreated and he was discriminated and his rights were violated. So thank you so much for your time. Till next week. Goodbye.